I don't know if you know this, but God is not offended by big dreams. Our God is not offended by big dreams. In fact, He tells us in Ephesians chapter 3 that He can do exceedingly abundantly beyond anything we can ask or think of. And so He says, try to outdream me. Try to outthink me. Try to outbuild me, and I will always have the last move and do something above and beyond anything you can even ask or think. That's really what 10 is about. And in many ways, 10 is really part of our DNA here at Crossroads. It's not something tangent. It's not some appendage that sits over here. It's really what we want to be the heart and soul of our church. For 10 captures the Great Commission. And I don't know if you know this, but the Great Commission is not the Great Suggestion. And Jesus gave it to us and said, get after it, and He promises to build His church. And so this morning, what I want to do is take the time to walk us through really 10 as we look to the future. And I'll be up front with you right now. I'm not going to preach a sermon. For some of you, that brings great joy, and God bless you. And for others of you, that brings great discouragement and consternation to your soul. If it really bothers you, I'd love to hear from you. Email me at scottoverby@lifeatcrossroads.org, and I'd love to get that email. I want to share with you, though, really the heart of 10. And for some of you, this will be new. For others of you, this will be new this year. And we want to get after this as a church, and we want to share with you this morning kind of where we're at and what we've accomplished and where we're praying the Lord will take us. Because I don't know if you know this, but here at Crossroads, and particularly the cowboy up here, I have a dream, I have a goal, and that is I want to kick a massive dent in eternity. I don't want to leave this planet with just a small carbon footprint. I want to drag as many people kicking and screaming into the throne room of God. Because there's something in heaven that we can't do for the rest of eternity, and that is bring people to Christ. And so we got to get out there after it now, here and now. Because I really believe that eternity is long and hell is hot and this life is short. And so therefore, we want to get after some things that frankly complicate our lives. It would be much easier for a church like us to not do 10. Trust me on that one. But we really believe in this, and we're really committed to this, and we want to bind our hearts together on this mission. And so this morning, what I want to do is just talk with you a little bit about what we've accomplished over the last couple of years since we kicked it off. I want to start in the year 2017. Do you remember that year? Was it a good year for you? Pretty much like the rest of the three services, and nobody's really excited about 2017, but we were, because in 2017 is when we kicked off this whole idea of 10. 10 is an acronym. It stands for Touch Eternity Now. And the number 10, we've actually put some numeric values to some of our goals as we talk about it here this morning. But in that year is when we launched it. We launched the whole concept and the idea of 10. And part of 10 was actually building out and moving into this building. And if you're new to our church, you need to know, by God's grace, we made it in here by the stroke of midnight, if you will. It was Christmas Eve when we got in here. In fact, we had to kick the painters out because we had to have service, and church was happening. And by God's grace, He walked us into this new building, and we have been recipients of His abundant grace ever since then. And so that was 2017. Of really, the whole goal was just to get into this building when it came to 10. Then in 2018, do you remember that year, last year? Was that a good year? When have you guys had a good year? Because I'm at a loss here to find a good year. Maybe it's going to be 2019. But in 2018, you'll see up there, basically we went to school as a church. We were educated, and we have now an earned doctorate in understanding how to find, how to bring over, and how to train and send an orphan, if you will, to the Master's University. That's no easy task, and I don't want to bore you with the details or make you play the violin, because poor us. It's been a wonderful experience, but it's all uphill. You have to find an orphan. You think that'd be easy because there's 153 million of them around the planet, but you got to find one of age that can speak English, that can step into the American culture and pick up collegiate studies. That is a tall task to find a man or a woman on the planet that can step into that. Like, here we go, and we got to find them. We don't necessarily have a feeder school to do this, so we're making phone calls, making connections to try to source that. By God's grace, he provided Davis Kalange, and we'll hear from him in a few minutes. But he came over from Africa. If you remember, he landed in here. He landed in here on Saturday. He went from LAX after flying on a plane, 4 different planes. He never flew before, but 4 different planes. And then he went right to the Master's University for introduction. And then he showed up here Sunday morning, was introduced to all 3 services, kind of starry-eyed, like, welcome to America. And he's doing awesome. And you're going to hear this morning, oh, it's so cool. He's killing it at the Master's University in his studies. And it's such a great story. And then the last thing that happened last year is we also went to school about church planting. And you say, well, wait a minute, you planted a church. Yeah, this was our experience. We're not experts at church planting. We've only planted one church. And so we've learned a lot over this last year. And we've been looking for a church planter, and we realized that's a tough task. That's like trying to find an orphan around the world. Because what happens, just think this out with me for a moment, there's a very few select number of men that want to be pastors. That's a finite number. Not everybody does in the U.S. And then a subset of that number, there's a subset of guys that want to plant a church, because planting a church and pastoring a church are 2 very different goals. And the reality is finding that subset is the hard part. And then what we learn is that subset number, that small pond of guys, they're either being schooled at a particular seminary, or they're part of a denomination, or they're part of an association. And so we put our fishing pole out, and we think we got one, and we're ready to go to the altar with him. And we get up there, and he leaves us for another better-looking church over there, which really ticks me off. But it happens. And the reality is we started asking the question. We went to about 4 or 5 church planting associations, denominations. We asked them, like, what do you do? What are you doing? And they said, you know what? Finding a church planter is the hardest part of this whole process. And we're like, yes, it is. And we said, what are you doing? And they said, we realized we had to groom our own church planters. And they basically told us straight up, here's what you need to do. You need to make your own pond and grow your own fish, because we're all fishing after the same trout here. And the reality is we're going to win as the denomination or association unless you are grooming them and growing your own fish. And so we learned a lot in that process, and I want to talk to you about that this morning. And so that's 2017, 2018. Now we come into 2000. I went to private school 2019. Okay, so 2019, what's next? What's next for our church? Here's what we're praying for 2019 in regards to 10. Number 1, we want to send our next student to the Master's University next fall. We're going to talk about that this morning. You're going to meet a couple candidates, and we're rapidly chasing down these people on the planet right now. The second thing we want to do, and this is a kind of a big, really big, kind of momentous statement for us as a church. We want to start a church planting institute here at Crossroads. And what I mean by that is we want to grow our own fish. We want to become known in the circles of church planting that Crossroads is a place where you can send a guy out of seminary, a guy that is looking to plant a church. You can send him to Crossroads. We'll bring them on in here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to train them. We're going to equip them. We're going to make sure they understand their theology. We want to inoculate them with the DNA of Crossroads, and then we want to send them out. And before we send them out, we want them to be here among us. And we want him to have a hunting license inside of this church to drag as many of you with him to go do this church plant. And we want to, at any given time, if the Lord puts his favor on this. And at Crossroads, we always say that because we don't know if the Lord will put his favor on this or not. But if he does, we would love to have anywhere from 12 to 50 guys that are in residency over the years, rolling through this, that are constantly fishing for people to go plant a church with. And we have an organization we're partnering with, and we want to hang our shingle out on the front street of Crossroads as this is a place you can be trained and equipped to go plant a church. It could be down the street. It could be 100 miles from here. The reality is we want to be a sending, going church, and we're going to grow our own fish to do that. The third one you'll see up on the screen there is we want to hire a go pastor. RW shared with you within the budget this year, we're praying that the budget allows for us to hire a go pastor who will become the champion of church planting. This gentleman is going to live and breathe and eat church planting. He is going to be recruiting people to plant, to go with a church planter and plant a church. When you bump into this guy here at Crossroads, he's going to ask you every week, hey, are you ready to leave Crossroads? Are you ready to leave Crossroads and go plant a church down so-and-so? And so much so that he's really going to bug you, and you're going to start avoiding him at some moment because he's going to keep asking you that question. And he's going to be our champion behind this, along with all of the Go ministries around here at Crossroads. Those are the three initiatives. They're short sentences, but in terms of investment as a church, these are time-consuming. Got to stay on mission. You got to stay after this all year long for God to provide the favor to make this happen. And so that's really where we're going this next year. I want to answer the why question. Why would we do that? Why did we do 10? Why would we do this in 2019? I want to answer some of the why. Why would we plant a church? And I'll tell you why we plant a church. You'll see up on the screen. These are some sobering statistics. In any given year here in America, 6,000 to 10,000 churches close their doors every year. That means, number two, you'll see up there, this week alone, 100 to 200 churches will physically close their doors. They no longer are in existence. What's happening in America is we are ending up with a glut of church buildings. There's denominations that can't afford to keep their properties going because nobody can pay for them because there's no church in there anymore. We moved into a manufacturing facility and we refurbished it for church. What's happening today in America is people are buying churches and refurbishing them for business, for things that the church planters of that church never dreamed they would be a part of. And so what we want to do is we want to plant churches to stem the tide. We can't fix 100% of those numbers, but we can do something. We can do something. You'll see up on the screen, this is a staggering stat, is today less than 20% of all Americans attend a church on a regular basis. Leads to the fourth and final one. You'll see up on the screen, this is even more sobering. Today, the U.S. ranks third, following China and India in the number of people not professing Christianity. Let that sink in for a moment. Number three, America. Oh, we want to change this. We can't change everything, but we can do something. Oh, we want to stem the tide of this. We want to plant churches. And the reason we want to plant these churches is and I'll tell you straight up, you just need to know this about your pastor. If you've been around Crossroads, you already know this about me. I'm a churchman. I mean, local church is everything to me. I was born on a Saturday night. I was in the church nursery Sunday morning. I live and breathe church. And I'll tell you this, I absolutely believe this statement. This is not hyperbole from some podunk pastor up here. Let me just tell you, I believe this wholeheartedly. The local church is the hope of the world. The local church is the hope of the world. And I'll tell you, I'll convince you right here, right now, why. Is for 2,000 years, civilizations come and go. Regimes come and go. Presidencies come and go. Kings and queens come and go. For 2,000 years, we have watched countries all of a sudden rise and fall, and their existence is nil. But there's one constant. It's been the local church. For 2,000 years, there is one constant on every continent on this planet, and that is the local church. The gospel of Jesus Christ will prevail because Jesus says, I will build my church. And when we plant a church, we are partnering with something that Jesus says, I'm going to build, and it's going to outlast anything on this planet. These little puppet kings, they come and go. But I will build my church, and it has been in existence for 2,000 years. Our prayer for this church, if you've been around it for a while, is we're praying this church would go how many years? 100 years. 100 years is we're trying to make it. Who's in? You're not going to make it. I want to be an honest pastor and tell you like it is. But the reality is we're going to pass this thing on to another generation. We're praying it will go 100 years, not just that the building will be around, but we're praying this thing will go 100 years with doctrinal purity and gospel vitality. In fact, if you haven't seen it, you need to go out in our lobby. In the floor of our lobby, we have a time capsule that we commissioned that we placed in there to be open on a 100th anniversary of this church. It's a letter from us elders to a future elder board, just praying that they are still preaching and teaching the Word of God, seeing people come to a saving knowledge of Christ. If everything goes right, someday I'll be inside that capsule. And wouldn't that be fun? Surprise! And we want this church to go 100 years. We want to plant a bunch of these. We don't want a bunch of Crossroads. We just want a bunch of Bible-teaching, Christ-exalting churches. And so that's the reason we really want to plant these churches. You'll say, well, what about orphans? Why do we want to plant orphans? Why do we want to educate orphans? Well, look at these stats. These are staggering. 153 million orphans worldwide. And loved ones, understand this. That's only the orphans they can count. These are not the enslaved ones. These are not the ones on the streets. These are the ones that are in the orphanages and in the systems, if you will, that can be counted. 153 million orphans worldwide. Hey, we can't do everything, but we can do what? We can do something. We can do something. Look at the next stat you'll see up there. Crazy. There are over 263 million children and youth that are not in school. Above and beyond just the orphans, 263 million kids not in school. And we know that education is everything. It's what moves a culture forward. What enables for a person to both read and hear and understand the gospel of Jesus Christ, because God gave His word in the scriptures to be read, to be taught, to be instructed. Well, guess what? You need fluency. You need an education. Hey, Crossroads, we can't do everything, but we can do what? We can do something. We can do something here. Look at the next one. You'll see up on the screen. 1 in 4 of the world's children live in a conflict or disaster zone. You understand that 25% of every kid in the world that woke up this morning, 25% of them woke up with one question to mom and dad: are they still bombing outside? Are they still killing outside? Or they woke up and they asked mom or dad, or maybe just one or none of them, are we going to eat today? Because they're living in poverty. Well, no, you're not going to eat today. Well, we haven't eaten for 2 days. I understand that. Hey, Crossroads can't do everything, but we can do what? We can do something. You'll see up at the last one on the screen. This is even more tragic. Militaries in over 50 countries actively recruit children under the age of 18 to serve in the military. When you're 12, you don't get a bike for Christmas. You get drafted in the military and handed a gun and said, fight for your country. Give your life for the country. You see, Crossroads can't do everything, but we can do something. Well, what do we want to do? We want to bring college age men and women that have been orphaned in their growing up, and we want to bring them here to the States, and we want to give them a college education. And the reason we want to do this, and I want to be abundantly clear, I don't want anybody to miss this. The reason we're doing this is we want to build presidents. We want to build pastors. We want to build physicians. We have the audacity to think that this idea of 10 is not going to change Crossroads, it's not going to change Awesome Town, it's not going to change the U.S., it's not going to change some country. We believe that 10 has the possibility of changing the entire world. And the reason we believe that is not because we're so great. In fact, there's no way we can do this, but God is amazingly good at what He does, and He astounds us with His abundant grace of taking the foolish ideas and the foolish people like ourselves and doing amazing things with that work. And so, yeah, we have pretty big dreams. I hope we educate one of Africa's next presidents. Is educated and grows up in this church and sleeps in some of our homes and finds out exactly how to defend the scriptures and goes back and changes their country, their community for the cause of Christ. Let me tell you, I find that more exciting than oxygen in itself. What wakes me up in the morning is not thinking of how do I not leave a carbon footprint, but how do I do something that kicks a massive dent in eternity. And I know pastors are prone to hyperbole. I'm just telling you, this is the stuff I live and breathe. This is why I'm in the game. And I want you to be in the game as much as the Lord would allow, because I think this is crazy fun stuff. To see what God could do by bringing a student here and changing a country. To see what a church could do, could plant 10 more churches themselves, those churches plant 10 more churches themselves. We don't want a church plant. We want to create a church planting movement. And so we want to go after this big time. Just to kind of give you a little bit of flavor of what we're doing right now regarding 10, we're actively working on finding this next student for the fall because we want to get a student at Masters University, not just Davis this next fall, but a new student. So we're talking to 2 new students right now, and I'm sharing this with you. Please don't say, but you said we were going to bring one of those students over. We don't know yet. But I just want you to see the world that we're living in right now. We're doing things like Skype calls, talking to embassies, chasing down TOEFL exams to find out English literacy, trying to get report cards, and it's cray stuff that we're chasing down to try to understand if this person can make it over here. First one is Gabriel. He's from Brazil. Amazing testimony, amazing story of how God's hand has been upon him. The other person up there, you see Lena, sweetheart, loves Jesus. She's from Haiti, and we've been talking with her, and she has an amazing story of God's just sovereign plan over her life. We have 3 or 4 others that are on paper right now that we have yet to process, but we're praying that God would raise up either one of those 2 or one that's on the pile right now, or maybe one that we don't know about comes up last minute. But we want to get a student in here next fall. Does that make sense to everybody? In fact, instead of just talking about potential, let's talk about reality. And this morning, would you give a rowdy welcome to Davis Kalange? Awesome. Let me just set this down back here. There we go. How many people have met Davis? Raise your hand. All right, everybody needs to meet him today. Blow his mind by introducing yourself and your family to him and make sure he remembers your name. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah. Davis was nervous. Should he be nervous?
No.
Yeah, don't be nervous. These are nice people. They're 11 o'clock. And just to tell you of just what a sweetheart of a guy here, he let us call him by the wrong name for 2 months until he finally told us, actually, my name. I'm not going to say the wrong name because we're going to never say it again, okay? So his correct name is Davis Kalange. Davis Kalange. Everybody say Davis. Davis. All right. Don't ever say that other name. And well, I told Davis this morning I wanted to do this quick interview because if you remember, he just kind of got ushered in onto the stage. I mean, and he just came off 4 airplanes and welcome to America. And we never really got to know him, right? And so I want to just do a quick subset, just quick interview with him, just so you can hear his heart and what the Lord's doing in him. And I just want you to know something. He's killing it over at the Masters University. How many A's do you have this last semester? How many A's did you get?
3.
3 A's.
Yep.
How many B's did you get?
2.
You got 2 B's. And someone was going to clap back there because that's pretty amazing. He came from Africa right into the collegiate rigors of education, 3 A's, 2 B's. He came to the office one day and says, Pastor Todd, I feel so bad. I got a B in communication. And I'm like, you're from Africa. Of course you got a B. I'm a pastor, and I get like a D plus in communication, right? And he's just killing it over there. So, Davis, tell us just about your childhood, growing up. Tell us the story of your folks and just life, and tell us where you grew up, like what country and village and so forth.
So I was born in Zambia. Zambia is South Central Africa. I was with my dad and my mom at that moment when I was born. For only 7 years, when my dad died at the age of 7, it came as a shock to me because I didn't understand by then what it meant to lose your dad. I was a kid, and my brothers were kids as well, but my sisters understood that. So growing up, I literally just grew up at 9. I stopped depending on my mom at the age of 9. I was done with her providing for me. And the reason behind that was not that I didn't want her to provide for me, but she had a lot on her plate. She had to prepare food for my brothers and my sisters, and I just thought it would be so irrational for me to add myself to that number. And because of that, I literally just grew up on my own a little bit, kind of that. I remember I didn't go to school because my mom couldn't afford it. She never went to school, she never had a job, but still she was able to provide for my family. But I never went to school like that period of time. And my brother started school at Lifesong 2 years before I did. Lifesong is it's an organization that I graduated from. I remember telling my mom I was going to move in with my uncle because he promised that he would take me to school. And all that was on my mind was school. And so I went with my uncle, but for a year he couldn't provide education for me, and I was just like not happy about that. I was like, I'm going back to my mama. And I moved back to my mom using a public transport vehicle, and I just went back to my mom because I was like not okay with not going to school. But when I went back to my mom, I then told my mom that I was really interested in an organization called Bushfire. Bushfire is an orphan-based organization. We'd call it an orphanage. That's where I went for a year and started school there. I didn't like the place that much because at that moment they weren't doing that good when it came to funds and education and the standards. And so I had to move back after a year, of which Lifesong came and they adopted me into their family. In 2011, that was in September. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tell us when did you give your life to Christ, and how did that change everything for you?
So because of my dad passing away from TB after working in the mines for a long period of time, I always thought I was going to be a doctor, and the reason behind that was maybe if I was there as a doctor, I would have served him. Imagine me thinking like that at the age of 11. And I was just like, pride it struck me growing up. I had a lot of insecurities, and so I wasn't really an open kid. I was so closed up that all I knew was me and me and me and me alone. But there came a moment where I was at Lifesong when I went to a camp, and a youth camp. I was in 2013, and I met this guy who told me so much about Christ and how he humbled himself, somebody who had like a throne to come down and die on the cross. I thought that was pretty amazing. How could a man do that? No, he wasn't just a man, he was the Son of God. Then I was like, Son of God, who's that? I had heard about him, but the way others presented him to me, it looked like they were faking the story. Like this man just resurrected from the dead. But I believed in Christ that moment because I had known the true nature of Christ, that he was humble and he humbled himself to die for me. And if I was ever going to be in heaven, I needed to accept him. And at that moment, I just thought it was the rational thing to do, to accept in Christ. And ever since then, changed my life. I stopped thinking that I was going to be a doctor, and later I changed my major to biology because I thought I could still help, but in a different way and in a more biblical way, not just being focused on what I would have done for my dad for my own benefits, but for the benefits of others. And so, yeah, it changed me so much. Right now, sitting here is a man who's been changed by Christ and His grace. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you can clap for that.
Thank you.
And so tell us, I've asked him a surprise question each service, and it's the same question, so I'll ask it again to you. Tell us kind of where you were when you heard about this opportunity to come to the United States and get a college education. What were you thinking when you heard about this?
Lifesong had an idea to send all of us, like the first graduating class, and we were only 10 of us. Or I must say 9 because one of them was expelled after our graduation. They sent us to a place called OM, Operation Mobilization, for a gap year program. And there we were learning about discipleship and mentorship and how we can be good disciples of the Lord. And so during that time, we were there for only six weeks for the first time. We were there for 6 weeks. But after 6 months, when we went post that, after 6 months, I heard about I thought it was a rumor. I wasn't sure about it, and I thought it's something I've heard before. I've heard of scholarships and stuff, but I didn't know that this was actually going to happen. So I chose not to believe in the first place, and to say the truth, I only believed when I stepped in this building. Yeah, but I was nominated at Lifesong by the Lifesong board of members, the executives, and I realized that I wasn't just alone in this. There were other kids from around the world, and that my motivation went like completely to zero. I was like, people from India? Gosh, those people are smarter than I am. And I thought I wasn't going to make it, but thank God, and only because of the grace of God that I'm here. Only because of His grace that I was able to pass for the second time that I took an English test. I didn't do so good on the first one, but I did much better on the second one. And I got a visa on the second trial. And so I was like in this kind of a situation where I'm not sure, is this right to do? Is this going to happen? Not until I stepped in this building, that's when I believed I was right in America. Yeah.
Isn't that great? And tell us, when you landed over here, you had to take 4 airplanes. You'd never been on an airplane, right?
Oh yeah, that was freaking me out. So when we took off from the Osaka International Airport, I was like, gosh, what if this plane tips over and maybe crashes? I'm not going to make it to America. I'll never see America. And I was freaked out by that. But yeah, it was when I got to South Africa, Johannesburg, and took another flight to Georgia, Atlanta. I was thinking in my mind the same thing, that what if it crashes? But in all of that, I was able to relax, and Miss Christie kept reminding me that I was going to make it and that not so many people die in aeroplanes. Yeah, so.
Don't worry, because we all think the same thing when we get on an airplane too, you know.
Yeah.
What is your major, and why are you wanting to major in that?
So I came to the Masters because of 2 things. God's grace was the first thing. Because of God's grace, I was provided with funds to go to the Masters. Not because I was smart, no. Not because I decided it on my own, no. But it was the will of God. I always prayed for the will of God, and it happened through you all. It's because of the Crossroads funds that I'm at Masters. And I thank God for that. The second reason is the institution is a Christian-based institution. And that for me means a lot. It means I'm able to learn more about Christ and just grow in His will. And that means a lot to me, because back in Zambia, not so many people worship as different people in the world do, and that really helps me. But the third part that I didn't even mention in my introduction was, that I already mentioned in my introduction was I've always liked science. On the start for a wrong reason, but now on a right pace. So I'm currently enrolled in a program to study biology, and my emphasis is molecular and cellular biology. And that's just like the beginning of what I want to do. I want to be a medical engineer who's going to be probably coming up with these equations, complicated ones, and structures, just so that I can develop certain cures and certain antivirals and antibacterial medicines. And that's really been my heart for doing this major, and that's the reason why I'm doing it. And mostly to help people that suffer from different diseases that can be cured. Yeah, I thought of that not because my dad passed away, but because I feel like it's the right thing to do for people that are alive, for the good of, for everybody's good and not just my good. Yeah.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And I want you to hear this, Davis, is we really believe in you.
Thank
and
you.
we believe that God's hand is clearly upon you. And right from that very first Skype call that we had with you, we just knew God was doing something in you. And we believe that God's going to educate you, and he's going to use you to do something amazing in this
Thank you.
world.
Thank you so much.
And there's just, I just want you to know, we're all behind you, 100%.
Thank you all.
And you need to know, Davis is kind of a Renaissance guy. He's going to do some soccer this season, and he's doing his studies, and he's also a very gifted painter. And he came in, you can see, isn't that great? So at the last elder meeting, he came in and wanted to present this to the church. And so why don't you tell everybody what this painting is about?
So, thinking about the church and the way that everybody worships here, I came up with an imagination of what it would look like for everybody that would worship in truth and spirit. And I came up with this piece called The Worship, based on Luke 12. And it's literally symbolizing how people are in one accord and worshiping the Son. I put this symbol there not because we worship the sun, I'm sorry, but because of the light that comes from the sun. It's kind of a symbol of Jesus Christ and his righteousness. And so that's where my motivation for this piece came from.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Davis is going to, and Kim Miles are going to be out in the lobby after service at the 10 table out there. He's got some more paintings. Come out, meet him, and see some of his other work. He's very, very gifted in that way. I want to finish with this, and I just want to open up my heart to you as we close. And that is, if you're sitting here like me, if I put myself in your shoes, I'd be thinking, okay, Pastor, I got it. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I want to be very clear. I want to ask you to do two things this morning, and I'm going to be bold with these two things. Two things you'll see up on the screen. The first thing is, I want you, literally, you'll never hear me say this from the pulpit, I want you to get your phones out right now. Like, you'll never hear me say that, right? And in all seriousness, if you got a smartphone, get your phone out right now and just log onto our website. And just go to your browser on your phone. I know some of you have already been on your phone, so just now go to your browser and go to, here's the website, toucheternitynow.com. It's just all one word, toucheternitynow.com. And you can go there and you'll see our website. And on it, I want you to become a 10 partner. You'll see a green button as that scrolls down top and bottom, and you can just click on that button. And when you become a 10 partner, here's what it means. We capture your information, and what it allows us to do is to send you periodically. We're not going to bombard you with stuff, but periodically, we're just going to send you a 10 update so you hear what's going on, so that we don't have to take a full Sunday to explain everything. We can keep everybody apprised. And so we want you to sign up, become a 10 partner like today, because if you don't do it now and you don't do it today, you can do it in the lobby. But if you don't do it today, chances are you're going to forget. So I'm really, really, really asking you to do it today. In fact, us Christians, we love free stuff. And if you sign up today, we're going to send you a free gift. All right? And I won't tell you what it is, but it's a free gift. And it'll just be a way to be reminded to pray for 10. So if you register today, we'll send that out this week. Here's the second thing, okay? First thing, become a 10 partner. Second thing is, yes, I want you to invest in 10 today. And what I mean by that is we are not here to present this big number of finances that we need. That's not what we're here this morning for. I'm here to ask you to become a participator. We're asking for participation today. And so by doing so, I want you to invest. And here's how I want you to invest. You're going to see it up on the screen. Here's how I want you to invest. Does everybody know what that is? Does everybody know what that is? It's a Starbucks Frappuccino. Starbucks should be called $5, all right? And here's what I'll just be brutally honest with you. I am asking you, and I don't ask for a lot of things from the pulpit. I really don't as a pastor. But I'm asking every adult in this church, and what I mean by adult, we're talking from age 13 and on up, okay? So, because everybody can participate in this. You don't have to be 26 to participate in this. We're asking for every adult. So if you're married, there's hopefully 2 adults in that home. Or at least 1, all right? But hopefully 2, so that would be double, okay? And here's what we're asking you to do. We're asking you to invest by giving up one of these and contributing you'll see it up on the screen, contributing $5 a week. That's all we're asking, $5 a week. You sign up today for $5 a week. If we all participate, this becomes an avalanche, and we can do more Davies or
Really?
more Davises. We can do more Davises. We can do church plants, everything. But it takes all of us to participate, okay? So I'm going to walk you through it because I want you to do it literally today. Because if you don't do it today, you won't do it. So you're on your phone, you click on Push Pay on that website, and what's going to come up is you're going to see this opportunity right here. You just type in $5. Every adult here, $5. If you click the box and you pay for the transaction, it's $5.11, all right? Kick in the 11 cents, $5.11. After you put in the $5, you then pick 10. That's the type. That's the fund that it goes to. Make sure it goes to 10, the $5. And let me say this. Let me just be brutally honest with you because it's better to be just totally transparent. This is all over and above. This has nothing to do with your giving to Crossroads as a family member here. This is over and above, all right? So you click 10, $5. The next thing you're going to click, you'll see up there, it's going to highlight, you're going to set this up as reoccurring. So every week, it's just going to come out. You'll never see it. It like goes into your account and just disappears, all right? And so you set up as reoccurring, and then you pick the frequency. You can pick every week. It just disappears. If you can pick every minute if you want, but we're just asking every week. And here's what happens: is the money just comes into your account, and then $5.11 just disappears. The church is really good at this process. Okay, so we're really proficient at taking the $5 right on out. And then the last thing you do is you're going to click on Next. And that's just going to send it over. And I'm not being bashful with this. I am asking every adult in our church, from the age 13, we're going to get our next gen, we're going to get our Elevate students. Everybody can give up a Frappuccino, once a week. You don't need the Frappuccino. Trust me, you don't need it. It's only going to make you go to heaven quicker. You really don't need it. And so you just once a week give up the Frappuccino. Does that make sense to everybody? Have I been clear? Have I stepped on your toes? Because I really want to. I really want to offend as many people as I can because we really want to do this, but we really need everybody $5 a week. Give up one Frappuccino. Let me do this. As we close, I want to give you one verse, and then we're out of here. I got to give you one verse. The Apostle Paul, he's just like preaching in 1 Corinthians 15. He's preaching about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. He says, I saw him. And he says, the same thing can happen to you. That's what the gospel does. It resurrects you for all of eternity. And he says, the gospel's amazing. And then he comes to the end of the chapter and he says, because of the resurrection, because of the gospel, he says this, therefore be steadfast, be immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your work for the Lord is never in vain. And one of the things we want to do here with 10 is we want to be steadfast. We want to be immovable, always abounding in the work. This, loved ones, every eye. Let me just tell you what this is. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. This is just week in, week out. We're chasing it down every single week around here. This is a marathon. And I want to remind you of something. Remember Noah, he had one act of obedience. That was to build the ark. One act of obedience. And that one act of obedience by Noah took him 43,880 days to complete. That was a marathon. That's the same thing here. 10 is a marathon. It's going to take a long time for all of this to happen, but we're going to be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. Let me pray, and then you can talk to Davis out in the lobby. Let's pray. Father, it's so good to partner with you. Now, Father, this is not some slick marketing, just kind of wasteful plan, initiative, or ministry. This is work that changes lives. We're seeing Juan right in front of us, that his life's being changed by this. And so, Father, this is the heartbeat of our church. We want to be a 10-minded church. We want to touch eternity now, because Lord, we know that the echo we hear in eternity comes from the actions we take now. And so, Father, we want to be faithful. We want to be immovable. We want to be steadfast, always abounding in your work. And we know you'll do great things with it. So we love you, we trust you. We commit this initiative again and again to you. We pray this in Christ's name. And everybody said, amen.